Welcome to the Carl Jackson Show podcast, guys. I want to start right off the bat by showing you a piece of video and reacting to it right away. I'm sure you've probably seen the video that went viral over the weekend where a Las Vegas teenager literally mowed down a former or a retired police chief. And I'm going to show you this video. I want you to brace yourself for this. It's a very sad and sick video. And then I'm going to react to this video because I'm going to tell you right now, if the races were reversed, these children or these, I shouldn't say that. Excuse me. If the races were reversed, we would have riots in the street. I believe that this person that committed this murder, in my opinion, should be tried as an adult, should be executed. That's the way that I feel. I believe this is the only way you're going to curtail this crime. This happened in Las Vegas. Crime is spreading throughout the nation, particularly in blue cities. The only way you're going to stop this nonsense is to crack down. Let's roll this video here, Gabe, por favor.
Look.
I want you to understand, some teenagers, or at least one, just carjacked a vehicle. Then they say an innocent man riding the street just decide to hit him. For fun. For fun.
No, that nigga knocked out.
You hear him? That N-word is knocked out. No, he wasn't knocked out. He's dead. He's dead. All right. Guys, listen, again. Imagine if that was a black dude that they had just run over. Do you think there would be outrage all across the media? Of course there would be. Another thing, I'm sick and tired of these people, these murderers, these freaking criminals. If they're under the age of 18, we can't identify them. We can't name them. No, when you commit a freaking sick, evil crime like this, we should be able to name you behind. We should be able to show your face on television, every television screen, every phone screen you should imagine. People should know that you are a murderer. These people were laughing as they murdered a person. And keep in mind, they had just carjacked someone else. The only way to end this type of violent crime is to set an example for these people. These people involved, they are naming they haven't even named him yet, but there's one 17-year-old that they're talking about. But I hear plenty of people that seem to be around him. At least one more person sounds as if they're in this vehicle, this stolen vehicle with this 17-year-old. Every single one of them should be charged. The driver should be charged with murder, and the driver should be, I don't know if Nevada has a death row, but if it does, this driver should be put on death row for murder. That is the way that you stop it. Make an example out of his behind. This guy's just riding down the street on his bike, enjoying life, enjoying his retirement. How ironic is it that this is a retired police chief? His name, Andreas Probst. I believe that's how you pronounce it. Probst is how you spell his last name. 64 years old and retired, enjoying life, riding his bike. People that carjack a car, some young thugs, just kill him for fun. Guys, there's a couple of other headlines. I was going to do the Jackson 5, and I am going to do the Jackson 5, and I got a lot that I want to get to today. I'm going to be talking about the United Auto Workers strike. Because that is a very important topic that a lot of people, in my opinion, aren't hitting on and in the right way. So I do want to touch on that. But there has been so much news that has broke over the weekend that I want to make sure that I bring that news to you. And for one, a big portion of the news, or another big thing that happened over the weekend, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton was actually acquitted of the of all of the charges, all 16 charges that were aimed at him in his impeachment trial. And I do believe that was a political witch hunt. We are trying to get someone on the podcast this week and that are from Texas that observed the trial all week long. I was on a Twitter space. I can't remember when the news broke, and there were several people on that Twitter space, including a woman, Cat TV. She has tons of Twitter followers. Sarah Gonzalez of The Blaze was on it. And there was another podcaster in Texas that had watched the trial and follows this stuff closely. And so I want to make sure that I get one of those people on, because I want to talk about this, because it appeared to be a completely sham impeachment trial. Ken Paxton has gone back to work right away. And if you guys may recall, Ken Paxton was doing a lot to fight against the Biden administration and a lot of the things that they were doing that were undermining states' rights, the Constitution, and so on, et cetera. It appears as if the Democrat Party and some rhino Republicans aligned to try to take him out, claiming that essentially he had taken bribes from, I believe, a donor friend or something to that effect, and had a mistress, in which he got this mistress a job with this donor friend. I don't believe any of those charges, played out, and definitely the Senate did not find him guilty of those charges and acquitted him on all 16 charges. Apparently, all Democrats in the state Senate of Texas and 2 Republican senators voted to impeach Ken Paxton. The rest did not. They needed a 2/3 majority, so it did not happen. And already, as soon as he was acquitted, I think his first tweet was to his wife and how much he loves her and how beautiful she is. And then he tweeted out pretty rapidly thereafter, "Buckle up, Biden administration. I am going to fight basically your authoritarian rule, your authoritarian reign." They couldn't stand this guy. So anyway, I want to make sure I don't have all of the details, but I do want to get somebody on to discuss that, because that is extremely important. Some of the races that we're learning across the country that we don't pay enough attention to, that are very important. We've learned that AGs like Ken Paxton are very important. We have our own AG here in Florida, Ashley Moody, that doesn't get enough credit for fighting for some of the things that she's fighting for. School boards are very important. County commissioners are very important, or city commissioners, city council members. Also, sheriffs are extremely important, as we learned in New Mexico. So, guys, even if we were to lose in 2024, and God forbid we do, I hope that we do win, do your best to make your city, make your county a red cocoon, if you will. And that is to make sure that you put people in elected office that are going to represent your values, that are going to represent the Constitution. Another race in which I forgot to just quickly mention are the state attorneys, district attorney offices. Look at what Fani Willis is being able to do to former President Donald Trump and that sham trial, and his the other 18 co-defendants. So anyway, just some very important things to remember. We can't just be focused on presidential elections. If you're hoping Trump wins for your freedom, you've already lost. If you're hoping DeSantis wins for your freedom, you've already lost. This is a country of, for, and by the people. If we don't fight, the minute these guys lose office, it is all over, said and done. Let me just make mention of this real quick too, because I saw Speaker McCarthy on Maria Bartiromo's show over the weekend, her Sunday show. And basically, they're not. Listen, the Republicans aren't going to shut the government down. They're not going to cut spending. They have no desire to cut spending. I'm going to be frank with you guys. I know I'm going to make a lot of you guys probably listening mad, but I'm going to speak the truth here. That's the way that I roll. Trump should have never endorsed Speaker McCarthy. Never, ever, ever should have done it. Thank God for those 20 Republicans that stood up. But unfortunately, that wasn't enough. Speaker McCarthy had offered some concessions. He doesn't care, because I think he believes that Trump has his back. I really do believe that. I know that's going to make some people angry, but Trump picked him, and frankly, I think it was a bad pick. I don't think Speaker McCarthy should be Speaker McCarthy. He impressed me initially, but it's the same old. But Senator Mike Lee has written a column on the process that takes place. It's basically the 4 people in leadership in the Senate and the House that are controlling the budget process. The rest of the senators don't have the say that they want. We are long from regular order. Legislators that control the power of the purse have very little say, except for those that are on the appropriations committees in both the Senate and the House. But it's basically a law firm. As Mike Lee writes, there's supposed to be 12 spending bills that are passed every single year. Right now, there's only been one for the VA and for some military growth, if I if I recall his column correctly. But they are able to control the spending process with just a few people instead of all of the people that we elect and send to Congress having a say in the matter. That has to stop. The tragedy of the spending, the reason why the spending goes on in Washington is because of, not just because of the omnibus bills, because sometimes they can be okay, but the process in which these bills are voted on. The members of the House and Senate often have a very short period of time, sometimes just a matter of 24 hours or a couple of days to vote on bills that are hundreds, if not thousands of pages long. It's absolutely insane. So Mike Lee wrote beautifully about this process and how it has to be shaken up from the top. We have to call our congressmen and our senators and say enough is enough. We want regular order. We want all of the legislators to be able to vote on these on the 12 appropriation bills. We want them to have a say in spending instead of 4 people at the top running the show, because ultimately what happened is those 4 people just garner more and more and more power for themselves in Washington, D.C. And that is exactly what is happening. They call the shots. And even Republicans go along with this. What happens? Democrats always get their way. So we end up spending more. The Democrats are in unison. They're united. And what do? We divide. We get divided. Republicans get divided. So it's a very dumb move. And unfortunately, I think this is a huge mistake. There is no such thing as a shutdown. It is true that there are payments that are furloughed for workers, the essential workers, and all workers, quite frankly, in the federal government. They do receive back pay when the government fully reopens. It is what's partial or temporary shutdown. No essential services stop. No essential services stop whatsoever. The people continue working, whether it's military, so all of the entitlements, Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, so on, et cetera. None of that stops. So this is all about fear mongering and spending the way that they want to spend in order to gain the power that they want to, that a lot of these people want to gain. And that process has to end. It has to end. And quite frankly, you need Trump talking about that. You need DeSantis talking about that. This process is an absolute disaster. Actually, I take that back. DeSantis did talk about it because Speaker McCarthy made sure that he bashed DeSantis and Matt Gaetz. So kudos to you, Ron DeSantis, for being willing to take the arrows. Kudos to you, Representative Matt Gaetz, for being willing to take the arrows, because a lot of people don't have the courage to stand up and do it. I don't care what team you're on. We're the ones that get screwed. If you're all rah-rah Trump or if you're all rah-rah DeSantis, you're missing the point. I'm rah-rah we the people. That's the way that I'm going to roll here. I'm concerned about us first, us last, because when Trump goes away, when DeSantis goes away, who's going to be stuck with the bill? It's going to be you and I. It's as simple as that. That's the way that I roll. A lot of you fools get emotional out there. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Forgive me. I love you, but there's a lot of fools out there that get too emotional over this stuff, and we stop thinking logically, and then both the left and the right end up screwing us. And that's exactly what's happening. Okay. So just real quick, this on the economy. I'm going beyond the Jackson 5 today. I'm just going to touch on some headlines because there's so much news. It's just insane. And then I want to get to this United Auto Workers strike, because I want you to understand that what's really happening. I'm telling you right now, the Biden administration, this is an anti-American. Mark Levin's show was so good last night. This is an anti-American administration. This is a president that is selling out the United States of America. And I think that the impeachment inquiry when it comes to Joe Biden, it is too myopic. It focuses on this guy just selling out the country. But what about his dereliction of duty when it comes to the border? I mean, we can go. This guy has absolutely sold out this country, emboldening China with these EVs. And we're going to talk about that, because I'm not a union guy whatsoever, but I'm completely sympathetic to the United Auto Workers strike. I'm not a union guy at all. I'm not a fan of them. I'm not a fan of EVs. But I see an opportunity here that people that love America, leaders that love America, need to seize on when it comes to this United Auto Workers strike, Republicans in particular. So I'm going to tell you how and why we should do that. So I'll be getting to that, and that'll be the bulk of the show. But I just felt like there were so many important headlines that I had to make mention of them, and I was just writing some down. But this is it. Crime in U.S. cities. Footage captures street execution of an 80-year-old New York City man executed in the street. The video shows, we just showed you the video of the teen driver that hit and killed a retired police chief. There's also the Los Angeles sheriff's deputy that was killed. Did you guys hear about this story? So this Los Angeles County sheriff's deputy was killed while he pulled up to a light right down the street, or right across the street from the police station itself. I believe this was in Palmdale, California. A gentleman by the name of Ryan Clinkunbroomer. He is a third-generation police officer. His dad was a cop. His grandfather was a cop. He was training officers in the field, so you have to be a good cop in order to be able to do that. He's sitting in his car with the window down. A Toyota Corolla comes up to him and just basically executes him, shoots him in the head, lets off a couple of rounds. The car drifts up just a couple of feet and stops. The good news is they have found the shooter. That is all the information, or the murderer. That is all the information that I know at this time. If news breaks while I'm recording, I'll make sure that I share that with you. But crime is on a rise. The U.S. economy, listen to this. Americans can barely afford homes. Milwaukee market shows trend. And then we'll get into this, what the UAW strike means and doesn't mean for auto sales. Actually, man, auto sales, brace yourselves. There's not going to be a whole lot of stuff on the market. And the stuff that is on the market, you think prices are high now? Just wait. Just wait. Things are getting crazy. All right. I think I mentioned AG Paxton. I did. LA County Sheriff's Deputy Kevin McCarthy announces House Republicans will subpoena Hunter Biden in an impeachment inquiry. Good. I'm glad that he's doing this. I believe that all roads lead to the big guy. As a matter of fact, Just the News came out with a column over the weekend. And I think this is a really, 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 really important column. Let me just pull it up on my phone real quick. And perhaps I'll dive into more detail. I don't have enough time to get into it as much as I'd like today, but Hunter Biden sold more than just an illusion, is the title of it. Biz partners had direct access to Joe Biden while VP. So Hunter Biden's business partners had direct access to Hunter Biden's boss. I want to make sure that I say it that way and that is framed in this way. All right. So Hunter Biden's business partners had direct access to his boss, which was his dad. Hunter Biden was working for Joe Biden. Guys, we all know, let's not play the games. Let's not allow the left to control the narrative. Hunter Biden only had access to these people because he had access to his daddy. That is the only reason why these people, these foreign nationals would bother speaking to Hunter Biden. Jonathan Lee meets with the Vice President Biden in Beijing at the time. Another one of the subtopics in it, the Alaman family visits the White House. Miguel Alaman Velasco and son Miguel Alaman Magnani Jr., descendants of a former Mexican president, both visited the White House in February 2014. This, according to White House visitor logs released by the Obama administration and news reports. You think Obama didn't know about this? Velasco is a former senator and governor of the Mexican state of Veracruz and is an industrialist with ties to broadcast and aviation companies. His company, Interjet, was forced into bankruptcy after Velasco was held liable in 2022 by a Mexican court to pay, a buttload of money, $739,891,173 US dollars. His son Magnani is, as of 2021, living in exile in France to avoid the execution of an arrest warrant that has been issued by Mexican authorities on tax fraud charges, according to Bloomberg News. Hunter Biden, listen to this, worked closely with the Alaman family from 2014 to 2016, attempting to drum up business ventures in Mexico that would include roles for the Ukrainian gas company Burisma Holding, on whose board he served. Guys, I can go on. And perhaps I will tomorrow, but I really want to get to this UAW strike and focus on that. But I wanted to make sure that I brought that to your attention today. Another thing real quick before we go to that, Trump made an appearance over the weekend on MSNBC. We've got a couple of videos for you. One of the videos that we're going to see, I thought Trump was very good at. The guy's just really good at retail politics and explaining his point of view. Another video, he kind of undermined the pro-life movement. I want to speak to that. Listen, again, I don't care how you feel about Trump. I don't care how you feel about DeSantis. I'm going to tell you the truth here. That is what you're going to get here. I'm going to speak straight up with you. If you want to get all emotional and hot and bothered, that's up to you. But as for me, I want to restore the Constitution, and I view Trump, I view DeSantis, and I view anybody, quite frankly, running for office as tools to use in order to secure my freedom. And that's the way that you should look at them. Honestly, this primary race has gotten so emotional and so just whack. I'm like, I'm sorry. I don't think the conservative movement survives. I don't think a constitutional movement survives. I believe that we're so divided, but I think it can survive if we, the people, rise up and say, you know what, Trump, we love you, but this is what you're going to get done for us if you're in office. And then I'm sorry, it's got to be more than what happened in 2016 through 2020. He did some great things, but the country is in way worse shape now. So we don't just need, we need promises. We need more than just executive orders. We need straight up legislation. So you better hope we get the House and Senate too. Otherwise, it ain't happening. Or retain the House and get the Senate as well. But anyway, here's President Trump on Meet the Press. Let's go ahead and roll the videos, por favor, Gabe.
I mean, DeSantis is willing to sign a 5-week and 6-week ban.
Would you support that? Do you think that
I think what he did is a terrible thing and a terrible mistake.
Okay, so I'm in total disagreement with that. Here's what you have to understand. There's a second video that we have of Trump too, because I think the second video is really good. It's classic Trump. He did a great job in the next cut that we'll be showing you. But I just want to make it emphatically clear. We live in a federalist system. I don't believe that any Republican sitting on that stage running for president should be saying there's going to be this type of, we're going to do this on a federal level. I do believe that the federal government should promote the issue of life, whether that is an ad campaign, whether that is the person on a bully pulpit speaking up for life and speaking up and standing up for babies by using the bully pulpit. But I don't believe this should be an issue based upon the law from on high. I believe you stick to the Constitution. Every state is a laboratory. Every state, as sad as this is and as disgusting as it is, but I'm just speaking truth to you here. Every state is a laboratory. So some states are going to want to go 15 weeks. Some states are going to want to go 6 weeks. What Governor DeSantis did here in Florida, it is a state issue. And we voted in the state of Florida to put a 6-week abortion ban. Basically, it's a heartbeat bill. And what Trump is trying to do, and some on the left, and I can't stand this because I think babies get killed. And I'm not for that. And if you're for that, you deal with God when you go see him face to face. But I'm sorry. Trump is wrong on this issue. Straight up. If you want to go to hell and gasoline draws for defending this crap, you go ahead. I'm not doing it. All right. So the state issue here is 6 weeks. All right. Now, I wish they would have said none, period, with the exception of rape, murder, and incest. They didn't do that. They did six weeks. And I'm not even for abortion on those issues. I got to be honest with you. I'm always hoping and praying that the mother would keep the baby, even if it comes to adoption. I understand, however, in situations like that, we're human, and I understand that people can get distraught. So obviously, when an evil act like that occurs, I understand the person's emotions, but I don't believe that the baby should ever be punished. That is my personal view. Anyway, so states' right issue is not a federal issue. And this is what people, sadly, in the Republican Party and on the Democrat side are trying to conflate. However, I will say this. DeSantis has done a really crappy job of explaining his position. He has. And frankly, so has the entire Republican Party. So they need to make listen, federal. We're a federalist nation, right? So states get to do what states want to do, if that's what the people in the states want. But the federal government is going to stay out of it. However, the federal government, in my opinion, has an obligation to promote life. All right, let's move on. Second video here, Gabe, por favor.
When you go to bed at night, do you worry about going to jail?
No, I don't really. I don't even think about it. I'm built a little differently, I guess, because I have had people come up to me and say, "How do you do it, sir? How do you do it?" I don't even think about it. These are corrupt people that I'm dealing with. They're destroying our country. I don't even think about it. All I think about is making the country great, making America great. Look, these are political. These are Banana Republic indictments. These are third world indictments. The President of the United States sees how we're doing. We have a movement, the likes of which has never happened in this country before. And you see it with the polls. I mean, I'm up on these people by 60 points and 59 points. I don't mean I'm at 59. I'm leading them by 59. You almost say, like, why are they campaigning? Asa Hutchinson, he's at 0. Christie's at 2. Other ones are at 1. DeSanctimonious is at 9. I just see a poll coming. I mean, I'm leading him by 60 points.
Mr. President.
And you say, why are they doing it? But here's what they did. They saw this happening. And he went to the Attorney General of the United States and he told them, indict Trump.
There's just no evidence of that, Mr.
Why?
President.
Because you mean
but
he's on it?
let's stay on track.
Look at all the lies he's told.
Mr. President, I want to talk
Kristen,
about
wait a
you.
minute. Wait. Could I say one thing? Look at all the lies he's told over the last couple of weeks. He said he was at the World Trade Center, and he wasn't. He said he flew airplanes, right? He didn't. He said he drove trucks, and he didn't. Everything he says is like a lie. It's terrible.
Mr. President,
even his handicap in golf. He said he's a 6. He's not a 6.
Sorry. Trump even knew the handicap in his golf game. I'm sorry. I missed that part. That is classic Trump. That's what you got to love about the guy. I am not going to lie. We'll wait and see what the polls bear out. Remember, I would caution. Listen, I don't buy into any of the polls. I think a lot of the polls are rigged. To be frank with you. And that isn't to say, listen, I'm anti-Trump. Or listen, there's no doubt he's a clear front runner. There's no doubt that he is leading by a lot. But looking at the way that polls have been conducted lately, I just don't buy the numbers. So we'll have to wait and see if he wins in Iowa. I think that'll be a true test of the real divide as far as points are concerned. Can he beat DeSantis by 10, 20? I think ultimately that's what it comes down to. Or will one of these people pull off an upset? The vast majority of people still are not paying attention to politics. And then this is a different cycle. Things are a little different. But I was reminded that in December of 2015, before Cruz ended up winning the Iowa caucuses, he was only at 8 points. And then he surged in the last couple of weeks because people started paying attention to politics literally within the last, month or so leading up to the Iowa caucus. So we'll see how far. There's no doubt in my mind Trump is way ahead. If he's ahead that far, I simply don't know. I just tend to believe that the people that are being polled are, like, when I go online, the most active people are Trumpsters. I mean, by far. It's not even close. And I think those are the people that tend to answer polls, particularly for Trump. So I could be wrong. We'll wait and see. Again, this isn't a knock. I think he's far ahead. Is he 50 or 60 points? But I don't buy that for a sec. I'm sorry. Looking at the way the polls are conducted, I just don't buy that. But he is ahead. All right. So don't think I'm sitting here trying to knock him. I'm just telling you the truth. All right. Now, here's an issue that I really would like to get to. And man, I hope we can really get this. These Paxton people want to talk about Ken Paxton this week because I want to learn about, I've kind of followed the case from afar, but I haven't paid attention to it as much, except that I thought Ken Paxton was a great choice for Attorney General. I didn't know about any personal woes or anything like that, but hopefully we will get people on to talk about that. All right, now, the UAW worker strike. This is a big deal. This is a huge deal, and I'll tell you why. I told you at the beginning of the show that I believe that Biden is an anti-American president. This may be our first and I really do believe that. I believe that Biden is committed to the failure of the United States of America. I believe that he sold our country out. You do not do the type of business that he conducted using his son with foreign nationals unless you are not concerned about the well-being of America. This isn't your regular everyday thief. I mean, this guy was putting, you have to wonder what he's done, like China in particular. I'm very concerned about China. I'm very concerned about the United States. I believe we have become our own worst enemies. There's no doubt about it. But secondarily, China is America's biggest threat. Sadly, I think the left within the United States is our biggest threat at this point. China is our second biggest threat. Our largest external threat is the way that I feel about that. And I think Joe Biden is totally compromised. I think he sold out to them. I think he has no problem. I think he's a globalist. just like many other Democrats on the left are, elitists, and like some Republicans are as well. So I think he has no problem with that. Guys, I want you to call your congressman. And one thing that I can do now, this legislature was supposed to at least be voted on last week. I tried to look it up. I did not see that they voted on it. I don't know if it's been postponed. I don't know if they voted on it and missed it, but I want you to write this down. HR 1435. HR 1435. Oh, and by the way, today's show is brought to you by MyPillow.com, Mike Lindell at MyPillow.com. Man, guys, let me tell you something. I get a good night's sleep when it comes to these My Pillows. I love them. I remember I lost a pillow of mine that I loved that I had had for a very long period of time in my life. Lost it in the move, and I was completely distraught. I'm not going to lie to you. Yes, I am that type of baby. But finally, I got a My Pillow. Absolutely love them. My family uses them. We love them. We sleep well with My Pillow. Right now, they've got an amazing deal. If you go to mypillow.com, click on the radio podcast square at the top of the page. Use my name, Carl, C-A-R-L. You get 50% off of the Giza Dream Sheets. And beyond that, you get deep discounts on all My Pillow products, including the new My Pillow 2.0, including, dog beds, mattress toppers, you name it. You get deep discounts on it all. So mypillow.com, promo code Carl, or give them a call, 800-858-0263, 800-858-0263. And guys, I got to tell you, it's time for us to put American jobs first. So when you get an opportunity to buy American, please buy American. Mike Lindell has suffered greatly because he's a patriot. And that means that he won't be able to hire as much. And honestly, they got great products too. 10-year warranty, 60-day money-back guarantee. MyPillow.com, promo code Carl. All right, so this bill, HR 1435 is the name of the bill. And I'm just going to read you. This actually was reported on Fox News last week. I didn't even know this bill existed. But I want you to call your congressman if it has not already passed or been voted against. Who knows? HR 1435. I'm going to look more deeply into this, but call your congressman and tell them you want this to pass. It is called Preserving Choice in Vehicle Purchases Act. Honestly, Republicans think of the dumbest names. I got to say that. We are so screwed when it comes to messaging. The Democrats come up with Obamacare, stuff like that. We come up with A, B, C, D plus blah, 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 blah bill. I mean, it's just, oh my God. But preserving choice, and I like for them to call it, I want to determine which car I buy, damn it, bill. You know what I'm saying? I choose my car, something simple. Something simple. Leave my vehicle alone. Leave my cars alone. I don't know. Just something that's just simple. But nonetheless, I digress. It's called the Preserving Choice in Vehicle Purchases Act, and it's authored by Representative John Joyce. He is a Republican from Pennsylvania, so kudos to Representative John Joyce. At least I give him credit for fighting the fight. But this occurred last week on Thursday. The legislation, if enacted, would block the EPA. And again, I don't know if this went through or not. I was trying to look it up before we started recording here. And I'll follow up on after we're off. But so the EPA from issuing waivers to states seeking to ban or limit internal combustion engine vehicles. So again, the legislation, if enacted, would block the EPA from issuing waivers to states seeking to ban or limit the internal combustion engines, a regular fossil fuel type engine, right? All right. So why is this important? First off, why is the EPA in this business? You see what's happening? It's just like these omnibus spending bills. We're kicked out of the process. That's exactly what's happening when the EPA is involved. Here's what Representative John Joyce had to say. The simple fact is that electric vehicles cannot meet the demands of my constituents. He said, coupling the mountains with the harsh winters and the intense heat of summers makes driving an electric vehicle both unreliable and ultimately unrealistic for many of my constituents, he says. This legislation, H.R. 1435, is an option. It is not an anti-electric vehicle legislation. I am anti-EV, and I'll explain why. For those who would like an electric vehicle, they should have the option of buying one, but it doesn't help my constituents. It doesn't help in any district to require an individual to buy an EV, regardless of what they want and regardless of the demands of the market, he says. All right, so California got a waiver from the EPA, so they were able to make their standards in California a lot stricter than even the federal government. So more cars are sold in California, as you can imagine. I mean, 40, 50 million people with illegal aliens and all. It's a massive car buying state. So of course, car makers will acquiesce to California. Not to mention, there's 16 or 17 other states. Actually, in addition, another 17 states have laws in place that are tethered their vehicle emission standards to those set in California. So the more strict that California goes with emission standards, 17 other states are tied to those. So overall, it is estimated that the states adopting California's 2035 rule represent more than 40% of total U.S. car purchases. So 40% of 40% of the market at least is going to have to turn, go EV. These businesses can't do that. This is why I'm not for unions, but I totally get the United Auto Workers strike. And I'm not talking about pay. Honestly, sometimes they try to raise the pay of unions, you know what I mean, or even the minimum wage so unions can make more. It's like a reciprocal relationship. So I kind of hate that. Or actually, I do hate that. But I think there's a legitimate fight going on in that these EVs are ruining American jobs and they are giving the advantage to China. And I do believe that is intentional. Did you know that income is down for 3 straight years in a row in the United States of America? 3 straight years in a row. That's Bidenomics. Selling out the country, that's Bidenomics to China. In March of 2022, the EPA reinstated California's authority under the Clean Air Act, all these to implement its own emission standards and EV sales mandates, and allowed other states to adopt California's rules. The move came after the Trump administration revoked the state's authority to pursue standards that run counter to federal rules. So Trump revoked California's ability to be able to pursue their own standards. Biden has reversed that. And this is why I'm telling you guys, legislation is so important. We can't go back in there. Trump can't get back in there. And this is honestly, it's really going to be Trump's behavior if he does get back in, or DeSantis. It's really going to be important how you interact with the Senate and with the House. Legislation must get done. It can be no more. The only piece of major legislation that was done was the Tax Cuts Jobs Act, I believe. And that isn't to say that Trump didn't do great things. I think he did do great things. But there was so much that he accomplished via executive order. It's just not enough. You saw what happened. Biden got in, and all he had to do was just flip the script and do exactly what he wanted to do without the help of Congress. And so that cannot happen again. So the 2024 election, both trying to get back the Senate and then retain the House is going to be crucial, hopefully with different leadership. I'm sorry, but Trump endorsed Mitch McConnell. I know he's regretting that now because Mitch McConnell turned around and stabbed him in the back pretty quickly. So I know he's regretting that now. Also, he endorsed McCarthy, and I'm not a fan of McCarthy. I'm sorry. It just seems like the spending is going to continue. So if we do gain control, it is worth having some more fights for leadership, in my opinion. All right, now, having said that, Joyce's legislation was co-authored by or co-sponsored by a couple other Republicans, Bob Latta of Ohio, Jay Obernolte of California, Gus Bilirakis, he's from Florida here. I never heard of them, but I'm glad to hear it. Voting against H.R. 1435, they say, is essential to vote, essentially a vote to ban gas-powered cars. So you want to vote for it. You want to ask for 1435. They say, or at least Joyce says, my hope is that the legislation passes with a bipartisan majority and that we show from Congress and that the American people hear loud and clear that we are committed to serving them and not serving them with mandates. Consumer choice needs to be protected, and HR 1435 will do that. You have industry leaders in energy coming out supporting the bill. And let me tell you where the United Auto Workers are just in their strike. They're just in their strike, and it appears as I watch headlines or as I see headlines, they're just in their strike in this regards. The more EVs you produce, who has most of the material and the minerals? I understand now that they're discovering some of these minerals within the United States of America, I believe Utah and places like that. But just consider what the UAW strike means for you, means for the United States of America. It means fewer American jobs as we rely more and more on China for EVs. It means less work for American workers. And this is just insane to me. How are we going to build up manufacturing in a communist country while we lose jobs? We essentially send jobs there. This is why I know that Biden is compromised. These EVs are a complete and utter joke. We do not make the batteries here. Even when it comes to Tesla, I know Tesla, Elon Musk and all that kind of stuff. He's got the best electrical vehicles out there by far. But here's what needs to happen. You want to save American jobs? If you want an EV, I guess that's your business. I can't stand the fact that we make EVs because they're built on a false premise. If you told me that you want a little more power and you don't want to spend money on gas as you drive around locally, because these things are pieces of crap, as Secretary of State or Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg found out, and also Jennifer Granholm when she went on an electrical car road trip, and it was a complete disaster from hell, even to the point where the cops were called on her for trying to save a spot at an electric charging place or whatever, where they have some of these chargers, and not all of them were working, so people were behind her, at least one couple waiting in line, all this kind of stuff. They were just mad because her people put a regular gas guzzling vehicle in the spot to hold a spot since there weren't enough chargers. And these things are just, they're horrible. When it comes to overheating, you're going to get less drive time. If you're near salt water, God forbid, there's a natural disaster of some sort. These things are very dangerous and can catch on fire. EVs are responsible for child slave labor, basically, in the Congo, as they mined for minerals. But listen, what these United Auto Workers are fighting for, and what I agree, is like these EVs, they're turning all of these, whether it is Ford, GM, Santillo, I believe, is now Chrysler or what have you. So it's going to be, listen, these car companies are getting ready to feel a little pain, but so are you. If you're looking for like a Bronco, these new Broncos, these Jeep Wranglers, if you're a fan of those, and I love those cars. I love the looks of them. I don't have one, but I love those cars. If I could afford one, I'd probably get one. But anyway, right now, dealerships are going to have to just deal with what they have on hand. So a lot of dealers are saying, listen, we learned from the shipping crisis, with the COVID lockdowns, thanks to the Biden administration. So we get more inventory in earlier. So people are learning to adapt to this, but that means there's going to be fewer cars on the market. So if you're looking for some of these products from the big three American manufacturers, prices are going to go up. Meanwhile, you got people being laid off in these positions as we ship more jobs to China. And let me just give you some facts with EVs. I believe I shared this in a previous podcast, but I want to share it again now. And I want to make sure that every time you leave this, you are informed. So call your congressman. What's the name of that bill again? HR 1435. You can say, listen, did you support HR 1435? If not, I want you to. If it comes up for a vote again, I tried to look up whether or not it come up for a vote, and I didn't find it. So anyway, I'll look into it again. But HR 1435, you want your congressman to vote for it. And that is the Preserving Choice and Vehicle Purchases Act. In other words, I get to buy whatever damn car I want act. All right. That's what it is. I'm sorry. These ICE vehicles aren't ruining the environment like they'll have you believe. These car manufacturers were doing a phenomenal job of bringing down emissions and giving you good drive time, on a stretch of a tank of gas or what have you. But it's just these lefties and these globalists within some in the Republican Party too. They're making a buttload of money off of this stuff, and they're able to win elections off of this by scaring the crap out of people and saying the sky is falling. The sky is falling. And the issue is, you can save the planet by buying an EV. Oh, and by the way, there was a headline earlier. Hackers are elated that more people are trying to buy EVs, even though, let me share this with you. There is consumer demand for EV is way behind production. So there's not enough demand for these cars, and they're making too many of them. People don't want these cars. A few people do, but most American drivers do not want these cars. And as a matter of fact, the EU is now investigating China because they believe, China is saying how popular they were in China, but they're finding graveyards of EVs where China made all of these EVs, cheap EVs, and a lot of these car companies like the Ubers, if you will, in China purchase some of these EVs and they throw them away and they scrap them. And they believe that China may have even made some or boosted their numbers to pretend like EVs were such a huge market and just booming in China, where other countries would buy EVs and be, have to bow to the knee of, bow down to China. I mean, these people, they're communists, folks. Now, let me just share this again. And I've shared this before, but I want to share it again. 10 facts. This from PJ Media. Electrical vehicle advocates don't want you to know. Number one, EVs are powered by fossil fuels. So if you're trying to buy an EV to get away from fossil fuels, too bad, so sad. You're not going to do it. According to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, fossil fuel based power plants, coal, oil, or natural gas create about 60% of the nation's electrical grid, while nuclear power accounts for 20%. The batteries of EVs, they rely on cobalt. An estimated 70% of the global supply of cobalt emanates from the Democratic Republic of Congo, where they have slave labor. I'm all for children working, but not slave labor, not against your will, not for pay that isn't, you know what I'm saying? If you're working in a business with your parents, family, so on, etc., or even like my brother did when he was 12 years old, worked at a local pet shop and my parents were okay with it, I'm totally okay with that. All right. A study released earlier this year by an EPA, number 3, EPA group showed that nearly 1/3 of San Francisco's electric charging stations were non-functioning. So they spend all of this money on these electrical charging stations, and you've got a third in San Francisco that don't even work because these things are even unreliable. The population of San Francisco represents roughly 2% of California. Number 4. Supporters of the California law admit that there will be a 40% increase in demand for electricity, adding further strain to the grid and requiring increased costs for power and infrastructure. Now, remember, what is electricity? What is it? What creates electricity? Again, according to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, fossil fuel-based power plants, coal, oil, or natural gas create about 60% of the nation's electrical grid. These EVs will strain these electrical grids. We don't have the infrastructure, even though Biden asked for another 100 million for charging stations across the country last week. According to one researcher, number 5, the strain of adding an EV to the grid is similar to adding one or two air conditioners to your home, except an EV requires power year round. All right, so did you hear that? The strain of adding an EV to the grid is similar to adding 1 or 2 air conditioners to your home, except an EV requires power year round. Now, whereas obviously an AC, if you're in, like I'm in Florida, the winters here are cool, but they're bearable, so we just completely turn off the we don't run heat or AC. We don't, no need to. Just put on a jacket. You're good to go. All right. Number 6, the 20 million American families, or 1 in 6, have fallen behind on their electric bills, the highest amount ever. Number 7, utility companies will need to add 5,800 and upgrades for every new EV for the next 8 years in order to compensate for the demand for power. All right. Also, number 8, the average price of an electrical vehicle is currently $66,000. That's up more than 13% in just the last year alone. You're going to see the prices of some of those that are made by these big 3 go up even more, probably costing an average of $18,000 more than the average combustible engine. Meanwhile, the median household income is $67,521. So the average EV is $66,000, while the average a median household income is only $67,521. For blacks, the average median income, household income, is $45,870. For Latinos, it's $55,321. But they want you to be able to buy a $66,000 car. Come on, guys. What's the real goal? The real goal is control. The truth is, they really don't even want you in EVs. They want you to buy into the lie that the sky is falling, the sky is falling, the sky is falling, and there's major things that people can do by saving the planet and buying an EV. But ultimately, if you can't afford the EV, what do you do? And they're getting rid of internal combustion engine cars. What do? You walk. And then what do? Oh, well, I don't want to walk. Let me take a subway. Let me do this. Let me do that. The goal of the left is to bring you closer and closer into the city where they can completely control you. And then you get the chaos and crime that you see, right, happening in cities. You don't want to be forced to move to the city. That's ultimately what they're trying to do. The left wants to bring people in closer and closer and closer so that they're easier to control. ICE engines represent freedom, and that's exactly why the left hates them. Also, when it comes to the United Auto Workers, again, EVs represent Chinese jobs at the expense of American jobs. And so for that, I mean, this is the first time in history that we have 3 automakers at the same time, I believe over 150,000 jobs of people striking right now. First time in history that all 3 of those have been striking at the same time. So it is going to have a significant impact on the market. 2022 study found that the majority of EV charging occurs at home, leaving those who live in multifamily dwellings or like apartments at a real disadvantage for charging. So if you live in an apartment doesn't have a charger, or let's say that an apartment does have a charger or 2, but you live in an apartment complex with 150 apartments and everybody's driving an EV, you're totally screwed. This stuff it isn't going to work. This is about control. This is about getting control of you. Again, consolidating, condensing people, moving everyone into cities where the left and these commies can control us. That's what it's about. The same study also noted that many drivers charge their EVs overnight when solar power is less available on the grid. These things are just totally not worth it. In my opinion. The great news is people are starting to fight back against this. There was a headline that Trump was scolding Biden for EVs. DeSantis came out and scolded Biden about EVs. The solution is there should be no federal subsidies. If you want to see this industry either grow or die, just get rid of the federal subsidies. If people want EVs, we shouldn't have to pay for it. Other Americans should not have to subsidize your freaking EV. And those cars are so ugly anyway. I really don't know why people like them, except the speed. I know they have a lot of speed, but everything else beyond that is just not worth it. And they're extremely heavy, just not worth it in my opinion. Listen, guys, I think I've covered about everything that I wanted to cover. Again, I hope to go into greater detail this week on Ken Paxton. Make sure you subscribe to my podcast wherever you go to get your podcast, Apple, Google, Spotify, and Rumble. Please check out that podcast that we did. If you haven't listened to the podcast with Arden Young, she's an investigative journalist for soundinvestigations.com. Check out that podcast. She went undercover to expose Pornhub, the porn site where the executives are basically, there's a loophole that exists that allows rapists and human traffickers to basically exploit their victims on Pornhub and make a buttload of money doing that. So she went undercover. She's actually going to come back on with us this week. I can't say where, but she's going to be breaking another story. She went undercover again, so we're going to have her back to expose the latest. All right. So anyway, so look forward to that. Please follow me all things social media at The Carl Jackson Show. Please subscribe and share. Please share this podcast with those you know. The Carl Jackson Show. Until next time, don't grow weary doing good. God bless you.